I think for you guys, because you've been such a great audience, you've been amazing, you've been fantastic today, we can get into just a little bit of free Britney drama. Yes, I love Zoe 101 drama as well, inadvertently. Just to make it clear, to make the point, we are very free Britney over here on this channel. We're free Britney all fucking day. So we're very free Britney. Okay. Just to make that clear. I'm personally glad the conservatorship is over, and you really do have to give it to the, the Britney stans, as annoying as they can be online. Like, they were right. They were sounding the alarm on this shit for years and years and years. And even if some of what they were doing was guesswork, like, many of them were right on the fucking money in terms of like what the conservatorship was, how toxic it was, the negative impact it was having on Britney Spears. Sure, there were a lot of very negative and horrific, details like, the IUD. If you go back and read Britney's statement in court on the whole thing, that obviously nobody knew at the time that fans were calling out the conservatorship, but it was as awful as the fans made it out to be. And, without them, maybe it wouldn't have, fallen apart in the way that it did without that fantastic public pressure that so many people were creating. So look, the conservatorship is over. There's been a lot of fanfare about that. There's been a lot of rightful celebration about that. And obviously, like, in the wake of Britney talking about her experience through all of this, there has been a lot of vitriol thrown at Britney's family, many of whom seem to be kind of like, ducking it and trying to lay low as to, not have any of it hit them. But, her sister, Jamie Lynn Spears, has a very public facing career of her own, with a background in singing as well and Nickelodeon. And she's trying to extend her acting career into adulthood as well. And very curiously, she is now coming out with a new book called Things I Should Have Said, which is very strange, because, look, Britney has been very vocal in terms of like, pointing the lasers of, her fury in regards to this conservatorship at her family, either in terms of like them being very active in terms of making sure the conservatorship continued and was very toxic, specifically her father, and other family members kind of standing idly by and, maybe not playing as overt a role in it, but allowing it to happen. And while she hasn't exactly like, said directly that like the conservatorship was Jamie's fault, and, possibly how could it have been with her being, a teenager at the time that it started. But, the conservatorship did last well into Jamie's adulthood, and she did remain relatively silent during some of the most aggressive years of discussion about the toxicity of the conservatorship. So, I think there is a bit of an attempt on her part here to kind of save face and rescue what career she has right now. And, try to stave off some of the very negative talk against her on social media, with a lot of people claiming like, you were essentially an accessory to this. And, a lot of people, a lot of very angry, rightfully angry Britney fans kind of put the blame for this, at least partially, on her. And so now, she's coming out with this book, Things I Should Have Said, her memoir at age 30, because, 30, that's exactly when you feel like you need to tell your whole life story. Age 30 memoir, a lifetime of experience up until this point, and is now doing a somewhat tearful interview with ABC, talking about some of the things that are in the book and breaking her silence on the conservatorship and other things too. So we have at least a clip of the interview here, and I wanted to watch that with you guys and kind of go over what's said. Are there apologies, excuses, explanations? I don't know. I haven't watched the whole thing yet, but let's listen to it together and see what goes on. So here's the Jamie Lynn Spears interview, at least a part of it, specifically in regards to the conservatorship.
Jamie Lynn Spears, she's out with a new book, Things I Should Have Said, about growing up in the Spears family. Juju Chang sat down with her for an exclusive interview. Juju, this was emotional.
Absolutely. You know, people forget that Jamie Lynn has a lot of her own trauma to unpack. She grew up in the same parents as her world-famous sister, a child star herself with similar pressures inside that star-making machinery. And for most of her life, she says she was pretending that everything was okay, even when things were terribly wrong. And she has kept her silence about so much for so long until now. On her own path to stardom, Jamie Lynn Spears, a teen queen of Nickelodeon.
I had to go to boarding school.
Following in the footsteps of her famous sister, pop star Britney Spears.
I adored her. I just really she felt like everything to me.
And this morning, Jamie Lynn Spears, now 30, an actress.
But it's just not that simple. And at some point, you have to own the path you're on.
Songwriter and mother of two, speaking out about the pressure she says came with the famous last name and her family's complicated dynamics in her new book, Things I Should Have Said.
Why write this book now?
It was really important to me to, first off, honor my voice. I have to do it, or how else can I expect my daughters to stand up for themselves?
She details an unstable upbringing, due in part to what she describes as her father's struggles with alcohol when she was young. According to the New York Times, court documents show he attended rehab for alcoholism in 2004 when she was a teen.
You wrote in the book, he spent most of my life in that cycle of ruinous behavior. His bouts of drinking always caused me periods of torment and sorrow. How did his drinking shape your lives?
For me, it was created a lot of anxiety. The hardest part was like, could I trust you? Are you drinking? Are you not? It was something that no kid should have to question.
She also describes the close.
I'll comment here saying this is just very odd timing. This is very odd timing. Yeah, it's just very odd timing because, like, you know, this comes right after your sister's ordeal and the ending of the conservatorship and just all this information that's come out that has, you know, sort of painted how much of a victim she was of all of this. And here you're coming through with, like, you know, your full book explaining your own victimhood narrative in light of this family, which I have no doubt there is truth to what she's saying. I mean, you know, there's this would be far from the first, like, music entertainment family whose, you know, kids or the Jackson family, for example, went through absolute hell. You know, the Spears family would be far from the first, you know, be it that hell being brought upon them by the industry itself or very toxic family dynamics. But with that being said, you know, Jamie Lynn historically, like every wave of success that she's had in the past, has come off the back of her sister's success. And again, like clockwork, it sort of seems like she's following suit with her. And, you know, regardless of her involvement in the whole thing, it's like, okay, well, you know, she's going to do this. Well, I got to succeed at this in my own way. Okay, well, you know, the narrative is shifting into a discussion of toxicity and family history and all the terrible things going on in our house and how, you know, we're experiencing all this trauma. Well, here's my trauma story as well. And, you know, given that we are talking about trauma, and we're talking about trauma also that you sort of stayed silent during, in terms of, at least in, you know, how it was impacting your sister, it is really questionable. It is very questionable. You know, the timing, the framing, it's very questionable.
Bond she shared with her sister, who was 10 years older.
I felt like she was another mama.
Jamie Lynn says as the years passed, she noticed Britney's behavior begin to change.
Words that you've used in the book to describe her behavior over your lifetime was erratic, paranoid, spiraling. How do you see your sister's state of mind currently?
I can't really speak to anyone else's state of mind. I don't think that's fair. But I'm allowed to say how I felt in those, because that matters. It matters that I was in pain.
In 2008, Britney was put into a heavily scrutinized conservatorship.
That's a really weird way to kind of respond to that question. That's a very odd way to respond to that question, because like if you have your own separate traumas and experiences, like talk about those traumas and experiences, like, you know, tell us, sure. I mean, you know, I wouldn't be against her voicing it or, you know, against her putting it out there. Like what happened to you? You know, like how did this family dynamic impact you? What specifically occurred to you that you feel like you need to speak on? Because, you know, as fans of hers, and there are Jamie Lynn Spears fans, and as fans of Britney's, it would be, you know, interesting and important to know and understand the greater picture here in terms of like, you know, the Spears family and the conservatorship and all that. But it seems like what she's saying here in response to this question is, you know, in light of Britney's experience, I'm also very hurt too. And I need to talk about it too. And I need to be upset about it as well. And that it comes off kind of self-centered.
Conservatorship. Last June, before it was dissolved, Britney testified in court calling it abusive, saying, "I would honestly like to sue my family. And my family has lived off my conservatorship for 13 years.
What was your reaction when the conservatorship was dissolved?
I was happy. First off, I don't understand. When it was put into place, I was 17-year-old. I was about to have a baby, so I didn't understand what was happening, nor was I focused on that. I was focused on the fact that I was a 17-year-old about to have a baby. I understand just as little about it then as I do now.
You talked in the book.
No, I don't buy into this. Now, I've heard this quote before, and I don't buy into this. I do think it is true to the extent that, like, as a 17-year-old who's, you know, teen pregnant, yeah, you probably don't understand too much about, like, maybe your sister's mental health breakdown, though she probably saw a lot of exposure to that in the media, but still, her sister's mental health breakdown, and, you know, what a conservatorship is, because even for a lot of, you know, just think about the fact that with the ending of this conservatorship, you had so many people in the media broadly learning for the first time what a conservatorship was and how it worked and how it could work in a toxic way. So like, I get that. Maybe a 17-year-old doesn't know what the fuck a conservatorship is, but like you had over a decade to understand from that point. And during the years where the Free Britney movement was its loudest and most aggressive, did you not understand at that point? Like, where were you at that point? You know, like how did, here's my question. How did the angry Britney fans on the internet, on Twitter, seemingly know more about the conservatorship over the last 5 years than you did? Her sister, who she claims as family is benefiting off of the conservatorship, who's probably seeing more of the conservatorship behind the scenes than you know, some fucking Britney fan on Twitter. How do they know more about it than you do? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. Again, 17, and in that small teenage window, I get it, but like pushing 30, no, I don't understand not getting it at age 29. I don't understand not getting it then.
Talk about the role that you were asked to play in the conservatorship.
There was a time where my sister asked me of her trust and will if I would be the person who assured that her boys got what they needed. Whether she's in a conservatorship or not, that was a very normal thing, I thought. Once I realized that, you know what, she's in a conservatorship, I felt like I just didn't want to be a part of until maybe she was out of the conservatorship. So there was no like me.
How do you be a part of a conservatorship after the conservatorship is over? You wanted to be a part of a conservatorship after the conservatorship? How does that work? She's the younger sister. Britney Spears is the older sister.
Overseeing funds or something like that. And if that was, it was a misunderstanding. But either way, I took no steps to be a part of it.
Jamie Lynn revealing for the first time she even tried to give Britney the resources she needed to end the conservatorship.
I've always been my sister's biggest supporter. So when she needed help, I set up ways to do so. Went out of my way to make sure that she had the contacts she needed to possibly go ahead and end this conservatorship and just end this all for our family. If it's going to cause this much discord, why continue it?
So you didn't always agree with the conservatorship?
It wasn't about agreeing with the conservatorship. Everyone has a voice and it should be heard. So if she wanted to talk to other people, then I did. I set that up. I even spoke to her legal team, previous legal team, and that did not end well in my favor. So I did take the steps to help, but how many times can I take the steps without, she has to walk through the door.
But like, what were the steps? What did you do to make it easier for her to leave the conservatorship? I mean, she talks about talking to Britney's legal team. I mean, I think giving Britney, if she did in fact, I think giving Britney access to a legal team would have certainly been a big help if that's something that you were, looking to do, accomplish ending the conservatorship. If I was trying to end Britney Spears's conservatorship, I'd be like, okay, well, here's a bunch of lawyers. I can call one of them. I can get you in contact. I can get the lawyer to come over here and talk to you. But she's talking about her already having a legal team prior to all of this. Once Britney is set up with a legal team, what are you going to do from there? And again, it was kind of weird that this news piece is talking about her offering or providing resources, but she can't really describe what those are outside of like, well, if she wanted to talk to a person, I helped her talk to a person. What kind of people?
Been speculation of a rift. Many of Britney's fans attacking Jamie Lynn online. No.
And this is also what I think it's very much about, this interview, this conversation, because I think this conversation is very much about like, I really need my sister's fans to stop like pounding me on the internet, and I need to be able to continue to have a career. Let me try to come out with this book. Let me try to have this conversation. Let me try to paint myself as having nothing to do with this conservatorship at all. And I do believe her insofar as like, yeah, at age 17, she probably wasn't like constructing the conservatorship. Like I get that. But it's more like you continuing to benefit off of the fame of your sister who's being held back in this way over the course of the conservatorship, and your relative silence, public silence on the conservatorship as well, that I think, I and many other people are concerned with and are kind of wondering about.
Noting that Britney unfollowed her on Instagram.
Oh, shit. Oh, that can be kind of serious.
Britney also posting last July that her sister's tribute performance at the 2017 Radio Disney Awards to remixes of her songs hurt her deeply.
Honestly, it was somewhat confusing to me about that, and I actually have spoke to her about that. And I was doing a tribute to honor my sister and all the amazing things that she's done.
But you've cleared that up with her?
I have cleared up with the fact that I don't think she's personally upset with me about that. Truthfully, I don't know why that bothers her.
Despite their complicated relationship, Jamie Lynn says she still has a deep love for her big sister.
What happened to that love? What has caused this rift between you?
That love is still there, 100%. I love my sister. I've only ever loved and supported her and done what's right by her, and she knows that. So I don't know why we're in this position right now.
She went on.
All right, I'll leave that there, I think. Yeah, I mean, not a great look, not the best look. If she went into this hoping to soften her image and clear things up, I don't really think this clears much of anything up, because in terms of like Jamie Lynn's involvement with the conservatorship, potentially benefiting off of the conservatorship, or what she might have done to help end the conservatorship, I feel like I come away from this interview clip with more questions than answers and really no information whatsoever. Because, I think the fact that there's so few specifics in this conversation to any of this stuff speaks volumes, speaks, more than I think maybe a real explanation of some of this stuff would. But look, this full interview is airing tonight, or just aired tonight, I believe, at the time of me recording this. And no doubt with how vocal Britney has been online, At some point, she may in fact respond to or address what is said in this interview. Maybe yes, maybe no. I mean, again, from what I'm seeing here, she doesn't really seem to like push back against her sister in any way. Like, oh, Britney was crazy and Britney was out of control, or, you know, Britney was toxic, for lack of a better term. You know, she says, she uses terms like erratic and so on and so forth, and paranoid. And, you know, for sure, you know, Britney did legitimately go through a mental health break at the time that the conservatorship started. Whether or not it should have started is, you know, something that can be debated, or something that obviously led to very awful things. But, you know, it is in fact true that Britney was going through a lot and did have an absolutely awful, you know, personal mental break. As a result of, you know, just the media obsession and the paparazzi and just all the attention and all the pressure and everything. So, you know, that much is true. But, you know, again, I feel like Jamie Lynn isn't really kind of speaking to any sort of details or information that would really kind of call the fans off, because I think a lot of the accusations are really still there. None of the myths, if they are in fact myths, have been dispelled. None of the accusations have really been dispelled. And, you know, look, if Britney ends up turning back around and offering receipts in terms of like, well, this is what my sister did, and this is what my sister did, and this is what my sister did. This whole thing, this whole act of being like, I'm very sad about this whole thing, and I only ever did what was best for my sister, could in fact backfire on her big time. So if there is a response, I guess we'll see. But as of right now, you know, continue to free Britney. And I don't think this interview, this conversation was really the best look. So I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching this clip on TND Streams. To see more, subscribe to the channel and also click on the video link next to my head. Also, make sure to check out our other YouTube channels linked down below to see everything else we do week to week. And yeah, that's it. Anthony Fantano, forever.